There is an animal in the North Pacific that hunts and kills great white sharks, and will even take on a whale twice its size and win. This is the orca, the killer whale, the top predator of the ocean. A hunter so capable that nearly everything else in the sea has reason to fear it, which is exactly what makes this next part so strange. Because marine biologists studying orcas in the Pacific set out to answer one simple question: what hunts the hunter? And the answer they found genuinely makes no sense. The predator that should sit above the orca, the one thing powerful enough to threaten it, was nothing like what anyone expected. And the real dangers stalking the killer whale turned out to be far stranger and more disturbing than any shark. If you want the real answer to what hunts the ocean's top predator, take a second to subscribe. Why nothing hunts the orca? To understand what actually threatens an animal this powerful, you first have to understand just how completely the orca rules the sea it lives in. When you go looking for what actually preys on the orca, what hunts the killer whale out in the open ocean, you come back almost empty-handed, because a healthy adult orca has no natural predator anywhere on Earth. Not a single animal in the entire sea routinely hunts it. And for a living creature, that is genuinely strange, because almost every animal alive, no matter how powerful, has something above it on the food chain. The orca is one of the rare exceptions that sits completely alone at the very top. Once you understand what an orca actually is, that starts to make sense. These are not simply big, powerful animals. They are among the most intelligent hunters in the sea, and they almost never hunt alone. Orcas live and travel in tight family groups called pods, and they hunt the way a wolf pack hunts on land, working together and surrounding their prey with a level of teamwork most animals cannot come close to. When you combine a mind that's sharp and cooperation, that tight with real size and speed, you get a hunter almost nothing can lay a finger on. There is simply no animal that can take on a coordinated pod of orcas and win. If you want proof of just how dominant they are, look at what orcas are willing to hunt. The great white shark is one of the most feared predators on the planet, the creature that headlines our nightmares, and orcas eat them. Not the other way around. As most people would assume, the orca is the one doing the hunting. Off the Gulf of California, and famously off the coast of South Africa, orcas have been documented hunting great whites with almost surgical precision. They work together to flip the shark upside down, and once it is on its back, it falls into a strange, frozen, trance-like state where it cannot move. And that is when the orcas open it up for the one prize they are after, the shark's huge, fat-rich liver. But sharks are only the start of it. Orcas have been recorded taking on pods of sperm whales, animals that can be up to twice their size. A sperm whale is no easy target. It is massive and a powerful predator in its own right. And yet orcas have been seen harassing and attacking entire groups of them, killing some in the process. Sit with what that means. This is an animal that willingly picks fights with creatures far larger than itself, and wins. When you are the one hunting the biggest and most dangerous animals in the sea, there is simply nothing left that hunts you. So there it is, the honest answer. What hunts the orca? In the normal, everyday sense, nothing does. It is the undisputed apex predator of the entire ocean, the hunter that everything else fears, and by rights, that should be the end of the story. But it is not, because the phrase, "nothing hunts a healthy adult orca," quietly leans on two very important words, healthy and adult. And the moment an orca is neither of those things, the cracks in that perfect armor begin to show, starting with a strange split scientists discovered among the orcas themselves. The two secret kinds of Pacific orca, that strange split starts in the North Pacific, which is where orcas have been studied more closely than almost anywhere else on Earth. And it was there, watching these animals year after year, that scientists realized something surprising. Not all orcas are the same. In fact, swimming through the very same stretches of water are two completely different killer whales. so different in how they live that biologists treat them almost like separate cultures. The first kind are called resident orcas, and despite the fearsome reputation the whole species carries, these particular orcas are, in a sense, the gentler of the two because of what they eat. Residents eat fish and almost nothing else. In the Pacific, they specialize in salmon, especially the big fatty Chinook salmon, and they chase it in large family groups that can number dozens of animals, and they do it loudly. Here is why. The fish they hunt cannot really hear them coming, so residents have no reason to stay quiet, and they fill the water with a constant stream of calls and clicks, chattering back and forth as they travel and hunt. Drop a microphone into a pod of resident orcas, and you would hear what sounds almost like a non-stop conversation. The second kind could not be more different, and these are the ones to pay attention to. They are the transient orcas, also known as Bigg's killer whales, and they do not eat fish at all. Instead, they hunt warm-blooded prey, seals, sea lions, and dolphins, animals that, unlike fish, can actually hear a predator closing in. And that single fact changes everything about how these orcas behave. Because their prey is listening for them, transients cannot afford to be loud, so they travel in small, quiet groups of just a few animals and fall silent as they approach, slipping through the water so their target never hears them coming. Where residents are a noisy, chatty crowd, transients are a small, silent hunting party. So you have two orca sharing the same ocean, and yet living in almost completely separate worlds. They eat different food, travel in different sized groups, and even communicate in different ways, and remarkably, they tend to avoid each other entirely, keeping to their own kind rather than mixing. Two versions of the same animal, side by side, one built to hunt fish and one built to hunt flesh. And that distinction is not just a fascinating piece of trivia. It turns out to be the key to the darkest answer to our question. Because when you ask what could possibly threaten an orca, it matters enormously which orca you are talking about. One of these two types is far more dangerous than the other. But before we get to that, we first have to look at the rare moments when something from outside the orca's world manages to leave its mark. The rare killers. We keep saying that nothing hunts a healthy adult orca, and that is true. But the ocean does not always deal with healthy adults. Out in the wild, there are calves, the baby orcas, that stray too far from their mothers. There are sick and injured animals, and there are individuals that get separated from the safety of their pod. And in those rare, vulnerable moments, the outside world can occasionally strike back. The most serious of those outside threats is the great white shark. A great white is a giant in its own right, growing over 20 feet long and weighing thousands of pounds. And while it stands no chance against a full pod of orcas working together, it is more than capable of killing a single orca on its own, especially a young one. And that is exactly what the records show. Documented attacks have targeted precisely this victim, a young orca that has drifted away from its mother and the protection of the group. Because a calf without its pod is suddenly not an apex predator at all, it is prey. And other large sharks, like tiger sharks, are known to take the same opportunity whenever they come across an orca that is young or alone. But here is a detail that shows just how strange this all gets, and it comes from something almost absurdly small. When researchers photograph wild orcas up close, they often find their bodies dotted with round, crater-shaped scars, some healed over, some fresh. These wounds come from a creature called the cookie-cutter shark, a tiny deep-sea shark barely the length of your forearm. It does not attack to kill. Instead, it latches onto much larger animals and twists out a small, round plug of flesh, leaving a wound that looks almost like it was punched out with a cookie cutter, which is exactly how it got its name. And orcas, the undisputed rulers of the ocean, are found covered in these little bite marks. Now, it is important to be clear about what that does and does not mean. A cookie-cutter shark is not hunting orcas in any real sense. It cannot kill one, and it is not trying to. It takes a single bite and vanishes. But that image is worth holding on to anyway, because it captures something true about even the most powerful predator in the sea. Not even the orca swims through life untouched. Something out there, even something it could swallow whole, still manages to take its little piece. So the outside world can leave a scar, and on rare occasions it can even kill. But we have to keep those cases in proportion. A great white taking a lone calf is the exception, not the rule. And it only happens when an orca is caught alone and unprotected, because put that same shark in front of a full coordinated pod, and the roles snap right back to normal. The shark becomes the hunted, and the orcas do the hunting. So if sharks are not the real answer to what threatens the orca, then what is? To find it, we have to stop looking outward at other species entirely and start looking at the orca's own family. Quick pause before the part that genuinely makes no sense. The real thing that hunts orcas is one of their own kind. If you're finding this as fascinating as I did, take a second to subscribe. The killer that makes no sense. So if the great white is only a rare threat, and nothing else in the ocean is big or bold enough to hunt an orca, then what is left? The unsettling answer is the orca itself. The closest thing a killer whale has to a true predator is another killer whale, and orcas will turn their full, terrifying power even on their own close relatives. The clearest proof of this was captured in a peer-reviewed study by a team of researchers led by the marine biologist Ingrid Visser off the coast of New Zealand. What they witnessed and photographed is one of the most striking things ever recorded in the open ocean. A group of orcas attacked a pod of false killer whales. Now, despite the name, a false killer whale is not actually an orca. It is a large dolphin, and one of the orca's own close cousins in the dolphin family. So this was not one species meeting another. This was an apex predator turning on its own relatives, and the attack was brutal. The researchers watched an orca charge straight into an adult false killer whale and slam into it so hard that the force of the collision knocked a nearby calf completely out of the water, throwing it up into the air, where it spun before crashing back down into the sea. The photographs of that moment are genuinely hard to forget. A young animal flung into the sky by the sheer violence of the strike. And there was a chilling detail in what the scientists observed. The calves appeared to have been the main targets all along. The orcas were not just fighting off rivals, they seemed to be deliberately going after the youngest and most vulnerable members of the group. And this was not a one-off act of strange aggression. It fits a much wider and darker pattern that biologists have slowly pieced together. Remember those two Pacific orca, the fish eaters and the mammal hunters? The transient, mammal-hunting orcas have been documented attacking and killing the smaller, fish-eating residents, one type of orca hunting another in the very same waters. Rival pods from different regions have been recorded turning on one another. And time and again, the victims are the same: the calves, the ones too small to defend themselves. The single most dangerous thing in the world to a young orca, it turns out, may be another orca. Sit with how strange that really is. Here is an animal with no natural predator, a creature that hunts great white sharks and takes on whales twice its size, and yet the deadliest threat in its entire natural world comes from its own kind, and even its own family tree. The apex predator's greatest enemy is a mirror image of itself. Scientists are careful to point out that this is rare and that they do not fully understand every reason behind it. It is very likely tied to competition over food and territory, and to the deep, ancient divide between the different types and species of these animals, rather than to any mindless cruelty. But whatever the reason, the conclusion is hard to escape. When you go looking for what hunts the orca, the trail keeps leading back to the orca itself. And yet, as strange as that is, it is still not the biggest threat these animals face. That one is larger, quieter, and entirely our doing. The real predator. So we have searched the whole ocean for what hunts the orca and come up almost empty, finding no natural predator for a healthy adult. Only a rare shark taking a lone calf, and, strangest of all, the orca's own kind. But when biologists step back and ask what is actually killing orcas today, what is genuinely threatening their survival as populations, the same answer surfaces again and again, and it is not an animal at all. It is humans. Here is the part that makes no sense in the deepest way. For an animal with no natural predator, the one force that is truly hunting it does not have fins or teeth, and never even enters the water to fight. And yet its impact is everywhere. The greatest danger orcas face comes from human activity, and it arrives in several forms at once. It comes from overfishing, which strips away the salmon and other fish that entire pods depend on, so that some orcas are slowly starving in a sea that used to feed them. But starvation is only one part of it. It also comes from pollution, invisible chemicals and toxins that wash into the ocean and build up in an orca's body over its whole life, poisoning it from the inside. It comes from the noise of our ships and industry, a constant underwater roar that drowns out the very sounds orcas rely on to find each other and hunt. And it comes from the more direct dangers of fishing gear they can become tangled in, and the massive ships that strike them. Think about what that means when you set it against everything we have talked about. A great white shark, one of the most fearsome hunters alive, can only take an orca in the rarest of circumstances, and another orca, the deadliest thing in its natural world, is rare too. And yet here we are, a species that could not win a straight fight with an orca for a single second, and we have become, without ever meaning to be, the most dangerous predator the orca has ever faced. That is the cruel twist hiding inside this whole question. The orca cannot fight back against any of it. You cannot bite a fishing net into submission, or flip a container ship the way you flip a shark, or outsmart a poison you cannot even see. All of the intelligence and power that make the orca untouchable in the water mean nothing against a threat that comes from above the surface, from a world it cannot reach. So the real answer to what hunts the orca is not a monster from the deep. It is the one predator it never evolved any defense against, because that predator does not play by the ocean's rules at all. It is the one hunter, the perfect hunter simply cannot see coming. Why the answer still stuns scientists. When you pull all of it together, you can see why this question keeps fascinating the people who study it. Every path you take in the search for what hunts the orca leads to the same strange, almost empty place. You go looking for a great predator to match the great predator, and it simply is not there. Line up everything we actually found, and it is a very odd list. A great white shark, but only when it catches a lone calf far from its pod. A rival group of their own kind, or even their own relatives, in rare and still mysterious attacks. And, above all of it, the slow, invisible pressure of human beings, a predator that never touches the water. That is the complete list of things that genuinely threaten an orca. Set against an animal that hunts sharks and battles whales twice its size, it is almost nothing at all. And that emptiness is the whole point. It is exactly what makes the orca so unusual in the animal kingdom, because most predators, even fearsome ones, live with something above them, a bigger, stronger hunter that keeps them in check. The orca does not, And to find anything at all that can threaten it, you have to reach past every other species in the sea and look instead to freak accidents, to its own kind, and finally to us. Nothing else in the ocean makes the list. So in the end, the orca is not defined by what hunts it. It is defined by how little can. And that is the answer that still stuns scientists. There is no hidden monster waiting in the deep, no secret enemy we simply had not found yet. There is just a strange, wide-open space at the very top of the food chain, a throne with no one to challenge it. An animal so powerful that almost nothing on Earth can threaten it, and that near total emptiness where its predator should be is the thing that truly makes no sense. So marine biologists went looking for what hunts the orca in the Pacific, and the answer really does make no sense, because for a healthy adult, almost nothing does. Only real threats left to the ocean's ultimate predator are its own kind, and us, the one hunter it can never see coming. If you enjoyed this one, subscribe for more, and tell me in the comments which ocean mystery I should look into next.